Um, I mean, I just asked this question because, you know, I guess Friday morning, Saturday morning, but Friday morning, you know, a lot of you, here in America, or maybe even abroad, heard of the school shooting in Santa Fe, Texas. What folks know about, how many people were shot, um, 10 people dead, and, others have been wounded. You know, you kind of know the details by now, so I don't need to go into the details. I mean, there's been mass shootings, from January, on, into May, which is insane. It's crazy, Douglas and Benton, Kentucky, and you know, various other parts of the country. It goes into a situation, where you begin to ask yourself, you know, is it is it even worth talking about, when it comes to gun violence? What will change? Will people change? What will it take? Because this is crazy. I mean, if you literally look at it, if you do the numbers, it's been every week or every other week, or if it wasn't a mass shooting, it was some type of small shooting. If it wasn't at a school, it was, in some other, center or space, some threat of somebody being shot. And then there's not even the mass shootings that we're talking about, stuff going in the urban areas and stuff like that. So it's kind of crazy. You wonder, then the NRA has its talking points and stuff like that. And not to knock anybody, I understand, Second Amendment rights. I'm not knocking anybody. I'm not saying anything against anybody, who particularly, wants the right to bear arms. I get that. Folks have fought and died for that particular situation. But, what message are we sending to our society? What message are we sending to our youth? What message are we sending to the future, about, gun violence in America and how important it is to deal with. Like I said, I know this is not a popular thing to talk about. A lot of people may not want to hear about this, and I understand, but, when you see mass shooting after mass shooting, and this is not like the first mass shooting of the year. This is not even like the second mass shooting of the year, even in a school. I mean, like I said, you can go back and plug the numbers and do the numbers and whatnot. And this is not even the first or second mass shooting, of a presidency. I mean, if you go back to Obama, his time, and the Sandy Hook situation, that was just horrific. You would think after Sandy Hook, we would do something, or we would really have substantive change and stuff like that. So, it goes into the thing, as far as, you wonder, as a society, as a country, what do we value? What do we care about? What message do you send your kids? Regardless of the color, regardless of, what background you come from, regardless if it's just the white kids getting shot or if it's the black kids getting shot, really, when you look at it, what do we tell, the kids? What do we say? It's more important, for us to, maintain the status quo, and not, ruffle any feathers. But meanwhile, people are still getting killed. People are still getting, dying at a rapid clip. I mean, yeah, you can say mental health, OKC, gun laws, mental health laws, same old story. It really is. It's the same old story. Mental health, gun laws. But where's the real change? It kind of, took me aback when I was looking at the news and they said, President Trump said, enough of this already. This is going on long enough. And I'm thinking to myself, when they said Trump, reportedly said this is going on long enough, I was like, I didn't realize that there was a certain time limit to this thing. I didn't realize that there was a certain, thing where you said, okay, well, now this is it. I thought personally that, when it came to the gun violence and stuff like that, enough was enough, back when, in the Obama terms and whatnot and stuff like that. What's going on, Tosh Time? Thank you, OKC. It just it just bothers me. It boggles my mind, And or was it a race issue? It could be a race. What's going on, Lulu? Love you. It could be a race issue. It could be a societal issue. It does go into how we glorify and worship violence and sex and stuff like that. These play a part. Race does play a factor in it as well. But the reality is that people are dying in all communities. People are dying in the white community, in the black community. I mean, in the black community, we're not even talking about it. I mean, that's, if you want to talk about the shootings and stuff like that, it goes on in the black community. Like I said, we could have a whole separate live stream for that as well. But That's kind of what happens and whatnot. It's just a situation where we have a systemic problem. The system is failing these children. This is not about just Second Amendment rights. This is not about a white or black thing. This is deeper than white or black. This is how we see gun violence. This is how we glorify and look at our society and stuff like that. Um, it's kind of crazy. This is not just a mental health issue. You know, like I said, it's just, I agree with some of the kids from, Parkland, the activists, what they said, the Santa Fe school shooting, you didn't deserve it. They didn't deserve it, but, you know, um, it has been the deadliest shooting since the Parkland shooting, and it's kind of crazy, since the Parkland shooting, that happened. I think it was out there in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, this it shouldn't happen, but this sends a stark message in contrast to our kids, to the future. How do we tell the children of the future, of the children of now, the children, that will be even beyond that? How do you tell them to trust us as adults, us as a society, as a system, when stuff like this continues to happen? It's just it's insane. It's mind-boggling. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I know, it's not just business as usual. It's not just, hey, there's another mass shooting, and then you're just in my thoughts and my prayers and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong. Hey, size that, appreciate it. I mean, don't get me wrong. Prayers needed. But there's a lot of divisive stuff going on in this country. There's a lot of negativity going on in this country, and in a microcosm comes the gun violence. The gun violence represents so much, for a society. It shows the dysfunction. It just reaps, of a lack of concern, a lack of love, in our society amongst, the children's themselves, the people that are shooting each other, because these are babies killing babies out there. These are young ones killing young ones out there. And then other folks who are older, who are supposed to be more responsible and to protect the youth. I mean, if I was a young kid at this time and I see mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting, I wouldn't trust any adults that are claiming to be somebody of reason, of power. I wouldn't want to vote. Forget voting. I mean, no one knew it today. That's the problem. Well, here's the thing. The reality, OKC, is that these people know that these issues exist. People know that our young people, need to be looked after. They need to be seen. They need to, be cared for and talked to and taught a different way, a different approach. Is it mental health? Yes. Is it, Second Amendment rights? Yes. What's going on, Kenneth Fab? Is it race? Yes. Is it societal stuff? Yes. Is it a deeper issue? Yes. It's all of the above. It's all of these things mixed into one. Is it people worried about the government overthrowing them? There's issues with that too. Was it paranoia? Is it a real, concern that exists behind having these laws stripped away? Of course, having the Second Amendment laws and stuff like that stripped away, you know, is a big issue in itself. Is it going to solve the problem? No, it's not. It's not going to solve the problem to take away the Second Amendment rights, the right to bear arms. It's not going to take away that, because once you rip that away, then you rip away freedom of speech. Then you get into a whole bunch of things. Like I said, people get rights and all kind of things taken away. It has to be a different solution, though. It's it's crazy. It's crazy. Like I said, I mean, enough can't be said. Enough can't be, just pondered, or just done about what's going on. I mean, like I said, it's a systemic thing. This is a generational issue. This is a multi-president issue. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is not just a black or white issue. Of course, some things get more attention than others. But then you ask yourself, how many children have to die? Whose child has to die? And I hate to ask that question. I hate to even say that. Is it the child of a congressman, or a senator, or a billionaire that has to get shot before this happens? Something happens, something is taken care of, and you don't want that to happen. I don't even want it to be said that way, but it seems as if that's the way it was going. And then I don't know who the children are that was killed. And like I said, thoughts and prayers go out to the family members and the people that are affected by these situations, because then we don't deal with the reality of how this tears apart a community. How it festers more issues. How now, because of the ethnicity of the kid, or the background of the kid can go into question. Now you stereotype the kid and anybody that looks like these kids that are going out there to do things. You're looking at the lone wolf, and now when a kid is just emotional or seems suicidal, now you're ready to, pounce on it and overcorrect. And then people say mental health issues. Sometimes it's not a mental health issue. Sometimes people choose to use weapons, to kill other people. Sometimes that's just the reality of it. We scream mental health because, it's so easy to say that the mental health issue is what led them to that, especially, when we don't want to acknowledge the fact that they had a plan, or they know what to do, or the state didn't have, intense gun laws, or, it's an open carry state. Because there was a picture that I saw, or something, a text somebody had sent me from Instagram. They were showing how there was a man right after the shooting in Santa Fe who was walking around with an open carry, like, because it's open carry state, was walking around with a gun, openly, on his holster after the shooting, talking about let's make America great again, and you know, um, we're gonna fix things, or whatever the case may be. I was supposed to ask the grand she was a mental health issue too. Yeah, see, but you can't, and I get where you're coming from with that, Touch Time. You can't just paint the broad brush and say everything is just mental health. There's people living and accepting other people problems. Please spread love and positivity, friends. Yes, we need to spread love and positivity, but the reality is we live in a society where love and positivity is not always you know the the sexy thing to talk about. I mean, we stay with the drama, we stay with the gossip, we stay with the violence, with the vulgarness, with the overly sexualized, society that we live in, and that plays a part. It plays a part. Sometimes our entertainment plays a part in it, and we don't like to acknowledge it because people make a lot of money off of it. We glorify violence in this country. We do. We like to just turn a blind eye to it when it's one of our favorite actors or actresses in a movie, or whatever the case may be. It may be a summer or spring blockbuster, so we don't get into that, and we don't talk about those type of things because that's taboo. Like, no, it's not the video games. There's nothing wrong with Call of Duty. There's nothing wrong with playing Grand Theft Auto, all the days of your life, and being all subject to it. And don't get me wrong, in moderation, these things have their place. These things have their hold in society. I'm not saying rip away entertainment. I'm not saying rip away the realities of life, but that sometimes when it comes to these kids, there's not explained that it was a difference. And I'll give you an example. Like when I used to watch violence as a kid, my mother would always explain to me that when that man is shot, that hey, they were acting. That's just pretend. That's not real. That man shot. He's gonna be in the next movie. Look, he's going into the next movie. He'll be okay. But it was a difference explained to me between when it was fake, when it was real, when it was something else. When it was spiritual things, or I don't know, people doing all kind of stuff. And I think not enough parents sit down with their kids and actually explain these differences. Maybe they don't want to. I don't know. It's just sad to see all the violence, especially with the kids. And I think please say I don't think we subscribe to that thinking. Yeah, okay, true, true, true. I mean, I'll give you that size, Dad, but I'm saying a lot of parents don't take the time out to explain the differences, in right and wrong, and what's real, what's fake, and what should be glorified and what shouldn't be glorified. Some people just, let their children be exposed to it. They just, especially with the internet, they just let them have it, without mixture, without a buffer, without anything. And then when these things happen and fester, and these kids think that it's okay to pick up a gun, or pick up a knife, or get destructive, or be violent, or make terroristic threats. These things come because so many different things in society are unchecked. And don't get me wrong, there's some parents out there, try as you might, um, you may not be able to reach the child, because sometimes, the world, society, the violence, the negativity is more enticing to the child. But I think a lot of times, in society, the parents may not try as hard enough. And I'm not trying to knock anybody's parents, parenting skills or whatever the case may be, but there's something going on, because I don't have kids, so I'm not gonna sit here and tell, folks that, they're bad parents. Everybody's bad parents, but something's going on. Somebody's not being taught. Somebody is not being reached. Something is happening to the point where you have mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting, and this is becoming a common occurrence. So what do we do? Do we wait until June and July and say, okay, there's the mass shootings, the one or two mass shootings for the month? Or do we say, hey, again, it's going to happen again? How many more mass shootings do we need to happen in this year, in this administration, in another administration, in another span? Do we need to go on to the year and say, okay, thoughts and prayers again? I mean, what state is it going to happen in next? What province is going to happen in next? Is it going to be another church? Is it going to be another school? Is it going to be a mall? A community center? What I'm saying? Like I said, it's not something that should be common. It's not something that should become the norm. But unfortunately, it has. And this is not just a Trump administration thing. This is Obama too. In the Obama administration too, it was a problem. It wasn't as regular as it is now, at least not that I could notice from, but it was still one too many. I'm saying too many babies are dying, and then one is too many, if you ask me. One child being killed, senselessly is too much. And especially with the children. But unfortunately, this is the type of stuff that happens. These are the type of things that transpire. Like I said, I don't need to go into the details and try to vilify anybody, but it's a societal problem. Social media is what's going on. Kids have access to all this and all equipped to handle this depression. Yeah, well, part of that's the problem too, but there's parents out there. Politics have nothing to do with it. They're only this the spin off. Like I said, parents are the bottom line. Parents are definitely a big part of it, but is it something deeper than politics? Yes, it's deeper than politics, but does politics involve is politics involved? Yes, because when you have the NRA involved and the lobbyists and stuff like that that go to Washington and the people that pay a lot of money to keep the Second Amendment rights on the books, it is a big problem. The problem is social media has caused our children into emotional scumbags. I'm turning 31, and hold on. And the only shooter I remember is Columbine growing up. So obviously we're doing something wrong with our kids. That's part of it. That's part of it, drone worship. I mean, has society changed? Has social media, corrupted or, devalued, life and what we see as common and taken away a lot of our social skills? Yes. Yes. But there's a responsibility that comes with having this technology. I think as Einstein said that, we have to be careful not to get to a point to where our technology actually overcomes our humanity. And that's probably one of the problems with it too, our technology overcoming our humanity to the point where we forget how to cope. Think about it, when you left school, we didn't have to worry about the kids until the next day. Now you go home and immediately jump on Facebook. Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you on drone worship. You go on these different platforms and stuff like that. You got kids killing themselves and being suicidal and stuff like that. It is parents, yes, but what about the household that don't have strong parental support and are struggling? Yeah, it the reality is you do have households that are struggling. It's not just the parents. I can't sit here and blame parents and say, okay, bad parenting is what's stopping everything and causing everything, because the reality is like, if we go to New Jack City, when Wesley Snipes' character, was in Nino Brown, he said, last time I checked, Uzis are not made in Harlem. Like I said, and like he said at the end of New Jack City, I challenge anybody, if you don't even like New Jack City, go to the last court scene with Wesley Snipes, Nino Brown talking about this thing is bigger. It's bigger than Nino Brown. It's bigger than just one school shooting. These weapons are not being manufactured, largely in these schools, in any of these schools. The places where these shootings are happening, these schools or these neighborhoods are places where they're happening. The guns are not being manufactured in the school when they're giving it to the students. These students are actually going out there, and there's a structure. there's a format to where they can go out there and purchase these guns. There's a lack of accountability somewhere. School the weapons, take away the social media, stressing the kids. I swear to God, so much. Well, it's not just social media because if you take away social media, will it stop the mass shootings? I don't know. It's a systemic problem. It's a deeper problem. I think it's a societal problem. This is not just a one school thing or one state thing. This is not just okay. It's them kids over there, or it's those folks over there, or it's those parents over there. This is a bigger deal. This is an American problem. Some people may say this is a uniquely American problem. I mean, it's kind of crazy, you know what I'm saying? People have to worry about I mean, it's crazy in an age of terrorism and all kind of threats and stuff that we have that our kids have to worry about, the potential of being shot in their own school. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of crazy. Did I see any of this stuff into social media stuff? Well, drone worship, I'm not saying social media doesn't play a part, in this and whatnot. But what are you seeing on social media? What's being perpetrated on social media? What's being purveyed or uplifted and upbuilding? This is a truly American problem, and it's not something that started with the advent of social media. Because you could take away social media, but that's not going to stop and cause the problem to go away. Just like you could take away social media, you could take away Second Amendment rights. You could be more strict in the schools and put guns and in people's hands that need to have the guns and armed teachers and all that other nonsense that people want to do. You can do that, but the reality is that's not going to solve the problem in of itself. It's a multifaceted, multi-generational problem, and it's not just a simple solution. It's shades of gray in it. It's probably 1,000, 1,000,000 shades of gray in this particular situation. It's not just gonna go away with a quick fix. It's not just gonna go away with giving up rights or changing the law or condemning one person or another. And then you have the race comes into it. I mean, people will find ways to see the differences in somebody. They'll say, well, maybe this kid was a foreigner, so since he was a foreigner, and this is how it works, and I mean, so it's kind of crazy. Kids don't know what real world stress is, and they think the problems and it revolves around their life and how the emotional state were. I hear where you're coming from. Hey, Michael K. I hear where you're coming from, drone worship, but it's deeper than that. It's really deeper than that because I could go along with you on that if there was no mass shootings at all. I can go along with you if there was no problem of gun violence at all in this country. Then I could say, okay, maybe drone worship is right. Maybe this is something that started with the advent of social media. Maybe you could blame Facebook or Twitter, or YouTube itself, but it's deeper than that. PTA, Parents Teachers Tactical Association. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that size that, but it seems like it's getting that way. Do you have to, how back in the days or back in the olden days, you used to have to, have to teach the kids to get down under their desk because of, nuclear fallout or something like that, or, a bomb threat or something like that, or whatever the case, of teach them how to evacuate schools because of that. Now you have to have active shooter drills inside of a school. That's crazy. That is crazy that you have to get to the point where we have to have our kids have active shooter drills. You have to worry about whether or not you're in third period class or you're coming from lunch. And then, you got to worry about somebody being in the hallway, one of your classmates. So you bully somebody and you thinking it's over, or you bully them online or whatever the case. You have to worry about this person coming back and retaliating. Or it may be a situation where somebody doesn't like you, so you have a fight and you scrap it out or do whatever you do. You put it on YouTube or World Star, whatever, and you thinking it's over or you get suspended from school. No, that's not it. Because so and so, I ain't gonna say no names because I don't want to stereotype, but student X all of a sudden decides, I want to come fully loaded, lock, cock, and ready to go, one shot, one kill. You like seriously, dude? Like I don't know. This is the society we have. Kids have no escape from their personal life, and those are kids. And I mean, I definitely could agree with you on that. On drone worship, there's probably no um, escape for these kids from their personal life, and maybe things are too interconnected. Maybe things need to be scaled back. But here's the problem with the internet. Let's say you're right, drone worship. Let's say it is all social media's fault. You've already opened Pandora's box. there's too many companies, there's too many people that have too much money to gain from having the internet the way it is, open it up or whatever the case. And then there's the flip side of it with the net neutrality thing. So now you're trying to control the internet. I guarantee you this: you shut down the internet and you try to call social media the culprit or whatever the case may be, it's not going to solve all the problems. I don't believe that that's the particular problem. If that's the case, then you could say that for a lot of things. I'm not saying shut down the internet, I'm just saying control what the kids do. That's a hard one because these kids are smarter. They're 10 times smarter than we are. These kids know how to get on this computer and do things that I couldn't even imagine at the age of 4 and 5 years old. I mean, come on. You got cats on the internet watching TV or whatever. The Columbine issue been having social media. Yes, yes, it did. It did. Columbine did happen before social media. So it's a situation where it's a deeper problem. I mean, I get where you're coming from, Drone Worship. I'm not saying social media doesn't play a part. There's culprits. The media is responsible for it as well. Politicians, have a part to play. Law enforcement has a side of this as well. How people are profiled or police brutality. Different things, corruption that exists inside of certain low income and minority communities. It's a multi-pronged problem, and a lot of people don't want to address it. I think the real problem is that as a society, some people feel, that that's just their problem over there. Those people that died in Texas, they affect me as well. The people that died in Florida affect me as well. The Sandy Hook situation affect me as well because we're human beings, and you lose beautiful human beings from this planet by somebody being shot down innocently, unfairly. That means we lose as humanity. And yes, I get what you're saying on Emmett Till. I mean, there's so many multifaceted things that comes to this problem. It's not just a one prong problem because I guarantee you, you get rid of social media, something else. You get rid of Second Amendments, it's something else. I mean, it's just, I mean, yeah, it happens. I promise you the biggest problem with social media platform. If we're gonna get kids away from social media. Listen, I'm not saying that social media is not a problem, Drone Worship, but it's not the only problem. I'm not disagreeing with you that the kids, maybe need to back up a little bit from social media. But the question is, how do you do that? You'd have to start with the parents. You have to let the parents know the dangers and stuff like that. I felt that is the biggest. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers. I don't purport to have all the answers to it. I mean, all I can do is just, forward a conversation, make people think, tell people, hey, you might want to give a warning or disclosure or think twice before you get your 5 or 6 year old that smartphone where they can have access to the world. Somebody was saying that if you have a teenager or not even, you should be giving your kid a smartphone, not until they get to their teens. A kid shouldn't be, 3 or 4 months old, playing around with a smartphone. No. You should learn how to be a child first. You should learn how to grow up and experience life. If anything, I get you a phone, I get you a flip phone, I get you a beeper or something. Think about how fast the what a think about how fast the top bar sounds to knock out game and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, Drone Worship, on how that plays a part in the society. I definitely agree with you that that does affect, the spread of it and how the negativity spread. But there's always positive things too. I'm not gonna knock social media, you know, totally, because just like you could spread something negative, you could spread something positive. Look at the ice bucket challenge, or just look at any social media campaign, where it was worthwhile or whatever the case may be. Just a spreading of an idea, of a thought, of a question, of a movement and stuff like that. It has its place, it has its purpose. So I'm not gonna say that the kids shouldn't be exposed to it. Like I said, it's just, yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely. Kids just need Nokia phones. That's what they think they make the calls and text. Yeah, I agree. There's some kids out there draw worship that probably need some Nokia phones. Yeah, I remember back in the day, I'm a grown man with a Nokia phone, but that's before smartphones and stuff like that. It is a situation where it is a multi-pronged thing, and I don't want to be one-sided or one-dimensional with the solution to a multifaceted problem, because this is something that goes deeper than just red and blue states and black and white issues and just internet or just mental health and Second Amendment rights. Like it's just one of those things. Spend time with your children, people. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, part of it, besides that, is spending time with your children. That's another part of it too. Not to ignore your comments. It is a destruction or a division of the home. Like I said, you have so many children out there who don't have those loving parents and don't have the structure in the neighborhood, in the home, to where they can learn these things, where they can definitely be taught, where they can definitely be built up and just nurtured in the way that they should, because they say it takes a village to raise a child. Kids are so afraid of how people view them today and so worried about taking an L in society. Kids are built for this stuff. It's a point. Yeah, no, no, definitely, definitely, I agree with you. Drone worship, I mean, kids are afraid to take an L. They're afraid to be embarrassed. Yeah, a couple of times when I was a youngin', believe it or not, Mel had to get whipped on too. I got jumped a couple of times. I learned how to deal with bullies. Try to fight not to be a bully myself. But you learn these coping mechanisms. You learn how to deal with the hard times. You try to find positive role models or have people to talk to you. My mother talked to me and tried to do the best she could with me. Just let me know different things. With different struggles that we face and whatnot. Growing up in low income houses, cell phones made it easy to do this because now kids don't want to handle emotionally. Saying if we remove the practice, it will solve the problem. No, it won't. Drone worship, and here's why it won't solve the problem, because if you remove the cell phones, if you remove the social media, you have to have something to replace it with. If you have nothing to replace it with, then now they'll take these destructive habits or feelings and emotions and lash out, and then you have these kids out there going against law enforcement or maybe rioting or doing things that's negative, or rebelling against societies in ways that they don't understand, that the 21st century, they're ready for them. Why do we have something to replace it with? We don't need kids. um, Let me see that last one. Why do we have to have something to replace it with? We don't need it when we were kids. Yeah, no, that's different though. Drone worship. Drone worship. You got to understand. We're in a different society now. This is a different generation. Pandora's box has been open. It's already the bag. The cat is out the bag. Whatever euphemism or analogy I can use. Once you've shown people, the goose that laid the golden egg, you can't unsee it now. You after that goose. Once you ring a bell, you can't unring the bell, or you've heard it. Once you've seen or heard the tree fall in the forest, you're not. I mean, you could pretend like you didn't hear it, but the reality is you heard it. Now you're just trying to block it out and pretend it doesn't exist. I don't want to pretend that any of these problems don't exist. Even the stuff that you're saying, even the stuff that Size Dad is saying, even the stuff that exists with the Second Amendment laws. I just saw the movie They Closed Pandora's Box and Indiana Jones' Fall. That's funny, but it's not true. The reality is, metaphorically, Pandora's Box has been open for a while. The internet is just in its youth state. So if you want to talk about the internet and the effect that it has on the issues that these kids are facing emotionally and lashing out, we've only scratched the surface. Wait till we get to a point where people are, implanting stuff inside their bodies and altering and augmenting reality and stuff like this. There's a documentary that I have to find, and once I find this documentary again, I will tell you people about it. Come home when the streets like, well, those days are gone, Size Dad. Those days probably left when I was a kid. Back when I'm like the Generation X. People saying I'm in the millennium. I'm not in the millennium, but I mean the millennials or whatever. But I get it. I just tired of hearing about shootings every single month. Is out of control. Take back the youth of our nation. Um, well, here's the thing, drone worship. In order to take back the youth of the nation, or I'm thinking of the POZ song, we are the youth of a nation. Anyway, I don't want to get too crazy in it. Nah, the way to take back our youth or get back our country or whatever, yeah, I caught the reference. I'm not, I'm old, but like I said, I'm still hippity hop, but I get it. Nah, the way to take back our youth is everybody has to be involved. The problem is that when these things happen, there are people who are segmented in society who feel that if that happened in that state over there, that has nothing to do with me, which is not true. Let's say cell phones puts me on. Yeah, they shot in the back and they captured a cell phone and nothing. Yeah, it happens to shot. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's something that pisses somebody off too. Pisses off too. I get where you're coming from with that, Tosh Time. You know, I mean, guns aren't violent. Well, it's the people. I mean, I agree. The guns are not violent. It's the people. But the reality is that the people are not doing enough to actually solve the problem. Shall not be infringed on was not a suggestion. Yes, I agree with you. Shall not be infringed upon wasn't a suggestion. However, the problem is that there's no realistic suggestions or anything new being brought to the table by anybody that's relevant, by anybody that really cares. This is not just a, a black or white issue. This is not just a gun rights issue. This is not just a mental health issue. And I get upset when people come out and say that this is just one thing, when you look at somebody and it's a multifaceted thing, yeah, there you go. I disagree with, well, the guns are kids when they can. Well, it's complicated, Tosh time, because if you look at London, when they took away the guns in London, and even Trump brought this about, they took away the guns, then there was stabbings that were up, So, if people really want to hurt each other, they're going to find ways to hurt each other. If you're not using a gun, you use the knife, you use the bomb, there's something else going on. The guns may prevent people from being killed in one way, so it's crazy. That's unfortunate. You can use any weapon. Yeah, I mean, yeah, anything can be used as a weapon. Societal decay is a problem. Just the gun violence cry is fairly new. Well, that's partly true, Ariel, and that's partly false. It's a societal decay, but the gun violence is a part of that. Hold on. You can kill with a knife, but strangling, but my gun is pointing guns do kill. For somebody that was trained Tosh Tom, and I'm not trying to have odds with you, the guns are designed, you know, to kill, to maim, to hurt, but it's still up to the people on how they use the guns. So, is it a weapon designed to harm? Yes. Yes, I mean, but if you take a gun and you lay it down on the table and you don't use the gun, it can't hurt anybody unless it accidentally goes off. But I definitely hear what you saying, where the guns do kill. The guns do cause harm. I can't deny that. I'm not going to deny that. But sometimes it's more complex than that. It's more complex than that because in one instance we could say, the guns do harm, but then we use the guns to protect, you know, the officials or protect people or rich folks or whatever the case, dignitaries and stuff like that. So in one instance it is used to harm, it is used to maim, and it's other used to protect, to defend, and stuff like that. um do humans kill more than guns? Yes. Can guns kill? Can guns maim? Can guns do that? Yes, depending on who the owner is, depending on how it's used. It can accidentally kill you. It's a complicated issue because I believe it's a complicated issue because there's no one set answer. There's no one thing set in stone. But and will the societal decay be a part of it? Yes, it's a part of it. It's a part of it. It's so deep. The issue is so deep. People who say guns don't kill are silly. Well, there's some people that believe that, but it's deeper than saying whether or not guns kill or do they kill or don't they kill. It's deeper than that. Because let's say you say the guns kill. Let's say that's right, right? Let's say we just go all the way there with guns kill. Guns kill people. Okay. But the question is, what is anybody doing about it? What is anybody doing to stop the problem? Let's say it's the guns. The problem is the guns. No, it's not. No, I mean, I'm not saying anything to try to patronize you, Tosh Tom. What I'm saying is, let's say is that guns do kill and nothing will be done. And the thing is this: regardless of the tool that people are using, to kill, what's being done to combat the problem? Sometimes the problem, you know, is complicated. I mean, yeah, but Trump is a whole different animal in himself. Trump supporting guns is nothing surprising. I'm not gonna sit here and act surprised if Trump supports guns. Especially being a law and order candidate. So that's your answer. Well, I mean, uh, that's not the answer to my question. I mean, it's deeper than that. It's deeper than Trump supporting guns because the thing is that these issues were going on before Trump. These issues were going on before Obama. It's just that in this generation, in this age, maybe the social media component was a part of it. Nobody has the authority to infringe on gun rights. Debate was over in 1776. Well, it's not about gun rights, and that's what I get upset about. That's when I get upset about it. This is why I think the conversation stagnates. It's getting worse in the Trump world, It's deeper than that. It's deeper than Trump. It's deeper than Trump. I can't pin this on one politician. I can't pin this on 1776. I can't pin this on mental health. I can't just pin this on race. It is a complex, multifaceted issue. The problem, yeah, no, I'm not playing both sides. I'm not playing both sides. I'm not playing both sides. What I'm saying is this, Tosh Tom. What I'm saying is this. In order, no, I'm not. I'm not. I know it sounds like it. It sounds like it. But what I'm saying is this. It's not just a clear cut, it's that. Because if it was, and I would love for it to be a clear cut, okay, it's the gun rights. I would love to say it's the gun rights and let's just go and we just straight up gun rights. I would love to say that this is, 1776 and, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the only thing, right? But the reality is something else is going on, you know. So what is my firm stance? My firm stance that it's a multifaceted problem that's going to take everybody to be involved. So it's a win-win situation. It's not just we take away this or we stigmatize people for being mentally ill because what happens is when you make it so you have no firm stance. I do have a firm stance. My firm stance is that it's a multifaceted problem. That's not just gonna, you know, I remember going talking about guns. Well, you'd have to let me know that. I mean, Tosh Tom, I understand where you're coming from. I understand what it sounds like. It's just not one of those situations where I can come up and say, hey, it's one particular thing, because it's not. Because you can easily go through flat, that's funny. You can easily go through any one of these profiles of the people and say, okay, maybe it's the mental health situation. I can say this part, they shouldn't have, people shouldn't have easy access to the guns. That's a problem. That's definitely a problem as far as who has easy access to. And our society is a safe society, gun-free zones are idiotic. I don't agree with that. There's certain segments of society where you don't want people just armed and dangerous and walking around. I don't agree with that. Like I said, I've seen people, who are just armed and nobody checked or whatever the case may be, not having background checks or not having situations where people have, clear defined borders on what you can and can't do. That's not helping anybody. Nobody's talking about taking away guns. They're talking about not having them in daily society use and defenders. And well, I think when it comes down to, it shouldn't be easily accessible for high school kids or junior high school kids to go in there and buy a weapon and go and shoot up a school. That's a problem. I definitely agree that opens a very low crime rate. Well, that's something that's said Ariel perspectives until something like that happens out in Arizona, in that on that massive scale, because these are things some cops shouldn't have guns either. Well, that's a whole other subject. Tosh Tom, we talking about corruption and whatnot. What about the they carry over guns and genius somebody's all the time? Yeah, drone worship. That's the thing. I listen, and I want you, Tosh Tom, to understand that I'm not trying to flip flop and flim flam or whatever the case may be. I'm just trying to have an objective point of view or open mind about everything. Do I agree, with everything that's going on? No, I don't. But I don't want to make this, a one trick pony and say that it's just about one particular thing. Do you agree with that? Some cops should not have guns, yes or no? Yeah, I agree. No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree some cops shouldn't have guns. I agree that some cops shouldn't have a badge. I see a very nation that has a whole lot to deal with. I can definitely do agree with you on that perspective. But that's one of my stances. If I have a firm stance on this, is that my stance is that this is not a question or this is not something that could be solved by just doing one thing. You're not going to just get rid of guns and solve the problem because then people are going to find other ways to be destructive, to be violent, to be vicious. I mean, I would love to say it was just the guns. If it was just the guns, and I honestly in my heart believe that, I would say yes. I would say yes, get rid of the guns, get rid of the Second Amendment, but I know better. I know better. Like I said, I've been trained, I've seen things, I know better. I know people use all manner of weapons. Like I said, we can go from story to story, do research. You can speak to law enforcement professionals. I know that people use improvised explosive devices. Anybody in the military, you understand what I mean. You know what I'm saying? Politics is a mental game the government plays with the people. Um, hey, That's what it is. Education is always the best first step. Educate folks about weapons likely to use the high schools. The question your example reminds me of Emmett Till. Do the research. Well, I'll say this: it's some research that needs to be done all around. Of course, you could teach people how to, deal with weapons and the safety issues and all that stuff that comes with it. There's an education that needs to happen, but it's not just with the weapons and how to use the weapons. It's not about just protecting, the rights from 1776. That's when it's one-sided. I don't want a narrow point of view because what happens is people wait for stuff like that. I'm going to do my entire life without having need to touch a gun, and I do the type of law enforcement. Yeah, well, me as well. Me as well. Drone worship. I've actually handled weapons before, so I know how dangerous they can be. You know, I understand the uses for them. I understand, the non-uses for them. And not needing them at all. I mean, I wish we lived in a society where we didn't need weapons at all. That's my real stance. If you want to know my real firm stance, I wish we lived in a society where we didn't need them at all. We didn't need weapons of any type. But the reality is, we have ignorant people. We have ignorant situations and things going on where people are hateful, and that's something where you know um, having weapons are not the most evil thing that can happen in a society or whatever the case may be. But like I said, you could go into the spiritual aspect of it and say thou shalt not kill. I believe in more non-lethal weapons. I believe in stuff like that, stun guns and nets and stuff like that. If you're gonna use a weapon, use a non-lethal weapon or something like that. Find out tactical ways to do that. I have one too, and it's locked in the box, and the person code the defendant non-lethal means. Yes, I was 15 years in corrections. Oh man, 15 years in corrections. I'm not even gonna lie. Hats off to you, kudos to you, but I couldn't do it. But Tosh Tom, I definitely think that you bring up some interesting points, and I hear where you're coming from. It's not lost on me. I'm not taking away from your conversation or your point of view because it's valid, and even Ariel perspectives, is valid as well. But it's a combination of these things. It's not just one thing. Size that, yours as well. Um, I'm not here to get you get your buy-in. I know you're not here to get my buy-in, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that. You're not here to get my buy-in. Oh my God, Tasha. That's why I appreciate you. I'm not here to get your buy-in either. Let's just say it like that. I'm not here to get anybody's buy-in on this conversation. If anything that I can do in my conversations, if anybody knows me, even you, Tosh Tom, it's just the conversation, getting people to question, argue, and explore. Definitely. Yeah. I do a fair play. I do a fair play. Listen, Tosh Tom, because I actually I value your opinion because of what you just said. I value it because you're not afraid to say what's on your mind, as well as drone worship and anybody else that comes through. If you come through and you let me know how you feel, and just because I am who I am and you are who you are, you're not going to capitulate. You're not going to back down. Hey, I respect it. Just as long as the opinion that you give or the point of view you come from is yours. As long as it's genuinely yours and that's how you truly feel, speak your piece. Speak your piece. I'm not afraid of your truth. Hopefully you're not afraid of mine. However, I heard it hurts me seeing you guys, both young girls, I know parents able to bury their children before. Yes, it does hurt it does hurt to see that drone worship on a on the definitely serious note, on the, like, almost switching gears, but beyond the gun rights side of it. The reality is that what we can all agree on is that it's sad to see parents bury their children. It breaks my heart to see that anybody has to bury their children. And it's when it's supposed to be the other way around. And that's the thing that we lose. That's the thing I don't want to get lost in any of our conversation here, is that lives were lost. People were taken away from this earth. Communities were ripped apart, and regardless of how anybody feels, it is, yes, it is disgusting. It's disgusting to see something like this, regardless of who did it or why, or what their reasoning was for it. Some also saying keep your guns, do a better job of locking things up, so the kids in here. Well, yeah, it's a combination of things. I mean, it's definitely a combination of things, and all your point of views and opinions are valid. That's what I said. We all, as a humanity, as a society, should have, something to say about this. Even if we don't all agree. Like I said, I don't expect Tosh Tom to agree with me on this. I don't expect Ariel to agree with me. Who's to say I agree with all of you? The loss of human life is for going to school that needs to be discussed and questioned. Yes, yes, it does, and that's what part of this is. Should these kids have to worry about guns and being shot up at school? And to me, the answer is no. The real answer is no. No, no, you shouldn't have to go to school especially when a kid is going to school and they're doing the right thing. Especially when a child is going out there and just really trying to win at life and overcome the odds and be one of those children that break through, whether they come from a broken home, whether they come from a silver spoon, whatever the case may be, whether they just come from a hard, working family. What I'm saying? It shouldn't have to be a situation where now you're sitting in classroom and wondering, is that person next to you going to shoot you? Or do you have to look up and get ready for the active shooter drill? Do I have to go home and study on this? By the way, you should listen to the Youth of the Nation. It's all about the Kalamazoo. Yes, I know what it's about. I know what it's about. I remember the song. I know what it's about. Definitely. Um, it's kind of crazy though when you look at that song though. How relevant it is. To today's situations and whatnot. And I quote Tupac. They say it's no what was the line he said? They say it's no there's no hope for the youth. He said the truth is there's no hope for the future. I mean, if that's the way you're gonna do things, so it's just kind of crazy because as adults, regardless of how we feel, regardless of how any of us feel on this chat, the reality is, what do we tell these kids? What do we tell these kids? Because the reality is, the whole 1776 argument ain't enough when these kids get shot down and whatnot, and then just taking it away. Maybe that may be the answer in some instances. Maybe not. I don't know. Hope for the future does start with our youth. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But what do you tell the youth when the youth are getting shot up in school? Do you tell them just keep hope alive, or just have faith, or whatever the case may be? I mean, that's part of it, but part of it is also us as human beings taking responsibility for the things that we put out there, understanding that it's not just a singular vision on what the problem is. It is multiple things. It is multiple things that exist in our society. Some of it is the guns. Some of it is mental health. Some of it is race. Some of it is police brutality. Some of it is economic, um, instability and stuff like that. Tell them to make it great again. I suppose. No, I hear where you come from, Tosh Tom. Don't worry. Ain't nobody mad at you because they're already saying that. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I just feel like like kids with all this technology having completely desensitized the world, and it's time to cut back. That's part of it, drone worship. But what do you say to that? Because a lot of it is being used to educate these kids. So I think it's trying to teach the kids how to be more responsible with it. It's too late to try to cut back and take it away from them because they already know it's there. They already know it exists. These kids have the right to this technology and gonna fight for the ability and the wherewithal to use it. So I think it's up to us to show these kids at least, or to teach them some kind of principles or morals on how to do it. In a respectable, responsible way, how to deal with these things. And I think a lot of lessons from the older generations are not passed on to these youths. Stuff that's real, not fake knowledge, not just preaching to somebody or whatever the case. You tell them the truth. We live in a world that is dangerous. We work hard to make society better and we contribute to our community. We correct the societal decay. That's part of it, but things take time. It's not just going to be a 1-2. I have a seminar. You spin around 10 times and then the kids will get it. No, this is something that people have to commit to. That's why one of the problems is when you start trying to help and teach the youth, you have to worry about people who are actually trying to corrupt and have an agenda and trying to steer these kids in the wrong direction. It should be about the future of these kids just for the sake of giving them a chance, a future, hope in their life. real stuff. You ever see the YouTube video with the lady telling the entire world that she is going to take her kids back and she was electronics and that's it. Yeah, well, I mean, hey, listen, that could be you, drone worship. If that works, if you shoot your technology and the kids listen to you, then hey, man, then we'll go to drone worship. We'll find out what's going on. It took time to get this point, and it take time to fix it. Yes, I do agree, but it won't just take one person. It just won't take one perspective. It just won't take one race. It just won't take one country in some instances. This is a societal problem. Is it uniquely American? Yes, it's uniquely American, but this is an issue that can exist and can happen anywhere. The problem is, I believe, one of the problems is that too many people are looking at it like this is happening over there. When it happened in Kentucky, it was over there. When it happened in Columbine, it was over there. When it happened in Sandy Hook, it was over there. You know what I'm saying? When it happened in San Bernardino, it was over there. But you need to lie to one of drones and they're trying to be difficult, but that's not a contradiction. Interesting question for drone worship. There's a lack of respect for life, I think. Yes, I definitely agree. There's a lack of respect for life, but that's, like I said, as I said earlier, it takes a village. Yes, it does side that. It does take a village. And there is a lack of respect. However, I'm an adult. I understand the real world. Yeah, but see, here's the thing, drone worship. You may understand the real world, but there's knowledge and wisdom that you could pass down to these kids that they don't have. And that's one of the reasons why we're around as adults. That's one of the reasons we exist, as people who are stalwarts or pillars of communities. It's not just about raising our kids and our family in our particular situation and we're fine. That's the problem. Too many times when you look up and you see people, it's like, I got mine, you go get yours. I'm taking care of my kids and my family. You be all right over there. I got nothing to do with you. Too many people don't give back into their community. So many people actually get something, leave the community, don't come back, don't build up anything, and then they wonder why, these things happen. Caught me again. Hey, what's going on, Lonely Prepper? This is actually a pretty deep conversation. Yeah, a little bit deeper than I thought it would get, But thanks to drone worship and Tosh Time, I guess they're keeping me in check and whatnot. But I ain't afraid of neither one of them, and Ariel. So I ain't afraid of none of them. I'm loving every moment of it. The things that were weighing heavily influence on how I raised has come to pass, and I make my own decision as an adult now. But it was a different generation, drone worship. It was definitely a different generation. I love my kid got involved in hobbies instead of going out and being a little punk, hanging out with the brats and doing stupid stuff. Yeah, I wish my fathers would go out and yeah, but these are things that have to be taught over time. These are things that definitely have to come over time. Drone worship, and it does take a village. It does take a society. It does take more people caring than just I guess the few times that we have something happen. This is something that has to go beyond just the media attention that happens from a school shooting, that was tragic, while horrific, is something that fades, because how much are we going to be talking about Santa Fe, and Parkland and Benton, Kentucky? In the end of the year, how much are we going to be talking about it when Halloween comes around, when Thanksgiving, when Christmas comes around? How much will this conversation be relevant when people are worried about Black Friday and Halloween, or just Christmas coming up and New Year's and whatnot? How relevant will these things be then? How relevant will this even be on Memorial Day? Or some other holiday? Fourth of July. How relevant will these conversations be? You know. Uh, my kids, yeah, teach how to school and safety class and understand firearms and use of Second Amendment to defend. That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, that's one side of it. I mean, but think about it. Not everybody's parents has that, Ariel. Not everybody, is coming from that standpoint of teaching and understanding, how dangerous these things can be. I think that we all define and raise back to type of connection with kids. That takes time. For example, my young followers raise more money for charity than me with less subscribers than me. This is true. This is true. That can definitely happen. Stuff like that can definitely happen. With the young subscribers, being active and whatnot. But then that is also about being role models and just having that positive influence and just trying to steer the kids in the right direction. The reality is you can't save and help them all, but you try to help the ones that you can. You try to speak to the ones that you can as far as doing the right thing, in life and whatnot. And it's a complex issue because it's multifaceted. It's multi generational. It's just not one. particular group of people. It's just not one particular segment of society. It's just not one particular issue. This is not, a one trick pony, like I said earlier. This is not just a mental health issue. It's not just a gun issue, even though it is about gun violence. Gun violence has multiple layers to it, especially we haven't even touched on the NRA too heavy and whatnot. The NRA has a ability to, influence and really teach folks and do all that stuff. Yeah, no, definitely drone worship. I appreciate you for being here. All right, guys, I catch some Z's. Definitely, I appreciate you for being here as long as you have been drone worship and you've added a lot to the conversation. They just need more discipline switching to they get their attention first. That's interesting. I mean, the days of old, the older days of old when you could when you could get that discipline and say, hey, this is the way it's gonna be. But so much has changed. So much has changed. All the best to you, drone worship. I definitely appreciate you for being here. You know, um, I don't know. Like I said, this is not something that's just an easy fix, quick fix. Because this thing keeps happening and whatnot. Like I said, I'm not trying to get anybody to go one particular way. I'm not trying to solve anything from this one conversation. I'm glad that everybody had a chance to just speak their piece, give their, opinion, give their truth and whatnot. They heard me a bit. How now you did go? Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely lonely prepper. If you didn't go to jail, then it hurt you. They didn't stop you. Oh, I forget. I forget something? I was supposed to eat something. I don't know if I ate that brownie. I can't remember. I can't remember. I'm talking about it, this conversation. Oh wow. I don't know. It's just so much to it to consider. It's just so much to really take into it. There's so many shades of gray into this thing, and then there's the corruption that's a part of the issue. There's so many people, that stand to gain, from just keeping things the status quo. Thank you, size that I appreciate it. There's so much that needs to be worked on. I know that this is not just one particular thing. This is a multi-pronged solution that needs to happen. I don't pretend to have the answers to it because the reality is I don't. And I'm not going to say it's just one thing because one thing is only going to give you a one dimensional answer to a multi-dimensional problem on many layers, which would include the limited of who gets the guns, which would include background checks, which would include mental health, which would include counseling, prayer, you know, just you know, just love and attention that folks need. Different things that people are missing. Just the concern of a community. I think personally, if you added, less access to the guns with more of a concern from the community, with a teaching of gun safety, with more, prayer and supplication about the situation, who knows what would happen? That's just my thoughts on the matter. Because what I'm taking from all of you, I'm taking from Tosh Tom and Drone Worship and Ariel and Size Dad. I'm looking at all the things that you're saying. How do you connect the dots with all the things that you're saying and find something that works on multiple levels? Because this is not just one thing. So it is something that's definitely, has many pieces left to be desired about it. And no, Tosh, I'm not being a politician. I'm not flip flopping. I'm not flip flopping. I know what it looks like. I know what it sounds like. Believe me. But this is more or less conversation. This is just more or less just seeing what's what. And just I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I don't pretend to have all the answers. I don't. I definitely don't. Definitely don't. But I do appreciate your input. And no, I'm not looking for the buy-in. you know. But I do appreciate you for joining it. So that's what it is. Searching my closet for a fresh pair of flip flops. That's funny. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm glad you have a sense of humor. I'm glad you have a sense of humor. Yes, yes. I mean, I like a pair of flip flops when the weather permits. Oh my God! I need a nice cup of lemonade though. Nice cup of lemonade with the flip flops and some shades and some suntan lotion to be out there for a while. You know what I'm saying? But it's all good. It's all good. It's good to have some flip flops. Oh my God! Oh my God! This has definitely been an awesome conversation. Oh man. Oh man. Like enough can't be said. This is definitely awesome, and I appreciate you folks for being here. Thank you everybody for coming by. I'll see you next time. Spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. And just know, like I said, none of this is lost on me. And this is an open conversation, and I appreciate everybody. And I mean that. I appreciate everybody for the input that you've given to this chat, to this conversation. It is definitely a lot to think about, and this is something, this conversation that should continue. Hopefully it does. All right, take care.